Welcome to From the Think Space from EduPulse. In this new series, we meet the inspiring people driving change in education, shaping ideas, sparking debate, and reimagining what's possible.
Hello everybody and welcome back to EduPulse. My name is Jo and today we are joined with Sophie. Sophie is the founder of StoryZoo, which is an online platform for reading, helping children fall in love with reading in schools. It combines stories and characters and interactive tools, and I think it's really cool. Why is reading so important in 2025, Sophie, do you think? Welcome to EduPulse.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Well, it's a huge question, isn't it? Why is reading so important? I am a year 3 teacher in the southeast of England. And since I've developed StoryZoo, I've actually found that my experiences are mirrored across the country and are the same experiences that teachers are finding up and down the country. And that is that if children cannot read fluently and cannot comprehend, then the rest of the curriculum is behind a glass wall. The children can't access it, they struggle, they lose their self-esteem, and then we see a huge gap as they travel through the school and as they move into Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3. And that really has a massive impact on their outcomes as well. So I think there's a whole host of reasons for that. But for me, it's really about making sure that the children can access all of the curriculum that we want them to, and to find a real love, innate love of reading and reading for pleasure. And that's really the mission that I'm on at the moment.
I think it's a wonderful mission. I'm a secondary school teacher, and we really do see that knock-on effect in secondary school if children can't comprehend at Key Stage 1 and 2. It's really hard for all teachers
difficult.
involved.
It's so difficult. And it's all those other subjects, isn't it? I'm on my soapbox now. It's all those wonderful all those wonderful subjects that traditionally lower attaining students really enjoy, like history and art and geography and dance and drama, that we're restricting the access to if they don't have that basic literacy attainment level. So yeah, really important that we get it right in the early years and in the first years of their education, to make sure that they can access everything in the future.
I mean, absolutely. I'm a drama teacher, so you're speaking my language.
Oh, I love it.
Absolutely. We have children here in year 11 who are really struggling to access the set texts and are struggling to learn their lines because they can't comprehend what the words mean.
It's so hard.
It's really tricky, I think, especially if you're in areas of deprivation too, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later. But I teach in Yardley Wood in Birmingham, so massive area of deprivation where we are. And it really does have that knock-on effect. So I'm really interested to know, where did this nugget of brilliance come from? Where was StoryZoo born?
Yeah, so I've always been quite a vocal member of the staff. I wasn't ever a shrinking violet, and I transitioned into teaching from being a dancer, so a complete career change. And when I came into teaching, I couldn't believe how hard teachers had it, and how now as part of a community that wasn't given the tools that I needed, didn't have the software that I needed. We were sort of given things that we had to make fit, and it didn't really fit any of the boxes for the children or myself as a teacher. So I had 2 children of my own. I transitioned from being a teacher to being a parent as well. And when my youngest started in reception, I had 2 days a week where I was supposed to clean the house and do the food shopping and all those lovely household things that you're supposed to do when they're at school. And I did none of them. I decided that if I was going to keep raising the issue of not having the correct software and the correct tools for me to be able to enable my class to access books and to be able to read, then I was going to have to do it myself. And I'm not one to sit around and wait for somebody else to come and rescue me. So I had an idea. The team that I work with are absolutely brilliant. And my co-founders already had a reading system in place for parents. And I messaged and said, this would be absolutely brilliant if we could add the analytics and we could widen the library. And they said, yeah, sure, come on board. So we created StoryZoo a couple of academic years ago. we started to pilot in my school, really saw how it worked. My school were brilliant and allowed me access to the children and the parents and then the staff, and they were really supportive. And we've developed from there, and we've gone from strength to strength. It was really reassuring to see that what I was experiencing was a countrywide experience. It's nice to know you're not alone.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's not just a countrywide thing, it's a key stage encompassing thing. It's not
It
just in primary
is,
school, it's in
yeah.
secondary school too. As teachers, we can be so lonely, right? We can feel like this is all
Mm.
our problem and that we're the ones who have to find the tools to solve them. And you did find the tools. So I just think that's brilliant. As well as
Thank
being a
you.
mum, you were also
Yeah.
doing this brilliant thing for reading. But
I was.
for those people who don't know what StoryZoo is and haven't come across it before, how would you explain it?
So, StoryZoo, in a little nutshell, is a tool that can be used in class and at home to really promote reading for pleasure. So, we have a digital reading record, which can form part of a routine with the parents and with the staff at school. But what really sets us apart is we have a whole host of comprehensions for existing books, which I've written as a teacher. So, they have full coverage of the reading content domains, and they build in difficulty, but they're really child-led and child-friendly. So the children don't feel like they're being tested. I think that's half of the damage that we've done over the past 10 years is we've really honed children's choices of books in, restricted their libraries, and then tested them, which obviously, as an adult, if I was tested on every book that I opened, I don't think I'd fare very well. So we've tried to widen that and give children an exposure to lots of different genres. So we do have that side of us that can test existing books, although the children don't feel like they're being quizzed. But we also have an enormous library, and that really is a tool that sets us apart. And our library can be manipulated to follow synthetic phonics schemes, so we can run alongside any synthetic phonics scheme, which is a bonus. So you have fidelity to the scheme, which I know is very important. And then we have 200 phonics books, and then we have over 500 books in the rest of our library, and they cover an enormous range of genres, non-fiction, fiction. They're all prompted with the year group specific grammar objectives, which is great for teachers because you haven't got to scramble finding noun phrases, which is amazing. And then they all have comprehension quizzes as well. So from a teacher point of view, you get a full coverage. You can track all the reading content domains, but more importantly to me is, as a school and as an SLT, you can see their engagement increase. So you can see them reading more, spending more time on platform, and you can track that as the child goes through school. And then also I need to touch on, we are fully accessible. So we have a huge range of accessibility features, overlays and different fonts. We worked with Dyslexia UK to really hone in our tools to make sure that our books were as accessible as possible. And all of the audio is recorded by teachers, which I know lots of teachers out there will think, thank goodness for that. So all the segmenting and blending, which really helps parents as well, because even though I am a teacher, I sat in some of those phonics meetings thinking, I teach this and it's still so confusing to me as a parent on the other side. So it alleviates that parental guilt as well. You know that you're getting accurate segmenting and blending, which is another bonus.
I mean, you answered my question already, which was,
Oh no, sorry.
no, it's okay. I've got loads. So as teachers, we've got billions of things to do. And my question was going to be, how easy is this to implement into your lessons?
Yes. Yeah, so that was another huge point for me as a teacher. I was like, I don't want to introduce something, and we've all been there. We've sat in the staff meetings where they're implementing something new and you're thinking, I've got 100 things on my list to do already. This is the last thing that I need is something new to add. So we handle all of that as a tech company ourselves. And I think having teachers as tech entrepreneurs, so to speak, means that you really are getting that service that you don't get from other places. So we do all of the onboarding. We have lots of transition documents which show you like existing schemes that you might have been using or familiar with and how that tracks with StoryZoo. And we also do parent workshops, which are amazing because the stress of the transitioning for parents is completely taken off your hands, and staff CPD as well. And my absolute favourite thing, which is where I've been today, I've been to Dorset, we do children's workshops. So we come in and we do a launch event, and we just get them really excited about reading, which is so lovely as well. So yeah, we try to take all of the strain off of the school, budget as well, because we know how stressful that is.
It is, it definitely is. So you spoke a little bit about getting the children engaged in reading. How do you find StoryZoo is a tool to engage those reluctant readers or those people who
Yeah.
really don't want to be reading books for pleasure?
So my experience as a teacher was that all children have the capability to be avid readers. Through different experiences from the minute they're born to when we receive them in school at 4 or 5 years old, they already have experience, negative or positive, about reading books. And those really reluctant readers where they might have struggled and they might have a negative connotation to reading, StoryZoo becomes a stepping stone for those children. And the end goal is always going to be that they read for pleasure and they wander over to my book corner all by themselves and they choose themselves a classic. But in my experience over the last 10 years, that has just got less and less children. So StoryZoo positions itself as a stepping stone in order to get them to that point, and we meet the children where they are. So I found that we were competing a lot when children went home with Roblox, Minecraft, Netflix, all the really high quality graphics that the traditional illustrations and things just couldn't match. So StoryZoo illustrations, you'll notice on our website, they're really high quality. They're all created by our digital content creators and designers, and they appeal to children because of their colour and their composition. They look familiar, and so we really meet the children where they are. So StoryZoo becomes that stepping stone in order to get them reading for pleasure. We also have loads of audio options as well. So EAL listeners, users can it really helps with embedding the phonics, and also those children that are transitioning from different countries and different places that might be a bit more unsettled.
I think we live in such an overstimulating world, don't we?
My goodness,
So
yes.
reading has to be exciting and seen
Yeah.
as cool and interesting, because I think reading is really cool, as you can see.
So do
from
I.
I think it's the
Yeah.
best. And I think it's really, you touched earlier on the last 10 years and how the systems and school systems have really made children feel reluctant to read because they feel like they're going to be tested on it. Why do you think the reading for pleasure has become such a tricky issue?
I think there's so many factors to it. I think that parents have got a whole lot more on their plate than they maybe had 10 years ago. It feels like, as a parent, I feel like I'm spread very thin, and I know what my obligations and my requirements as a parent are. But in reality, in that day-to-day working, taking the children to school, that is something that can slip off. And I've sat across from lots of parents and completely empathise and sympathise with that position. So I think that comes into it, and the busy life. But I do think what we touched on before, the technical technology and developments haven't helped either. And we're really pitching reading against all of those really high dopamine, high the rate at which we're digesting digital content is like never before. And I think that it's really tricky to transition children to reading from that. And attention spans, I'm sure that they have shrunk tenfold since I started teaching.
Like a 30-second TikTok video, that's
Yeah.
the limit.
Absolutely. And I found myself getting into that cycle, and I had to actively move myself away from that constant digital digesting digital data. But I think that once we expose children to that, and in our data impact reports that we have created with StoryZoo schools, we found that once we transition children into reading and we show them and they start that stepping stone journey, it is possible to get them back to traditional reading for pleasure, and they do find a way of seeing reading as that escape that we always have done. We just have to expose them to as many different genres and as many different opportunities as possible. And I do also think that over the last few years, there has been a bit of a snobbery towards reading, and certain books qualify and certain books don't. That doesn't wash in my classroom or my house. We love graphic novels. We love the back of the cereal packet. We love reading instructions. Anything that we're reading is reading. And I think that maybe in our hope to get children reading classics and what we deem to be appropriate reading, we might have lost some of the opportunities for children to access reading in different ways.
I absolutely agree. I think it's so interesting that we spoke about technology then. The idea that, technology can be so damaging, but technology in your case is a real tool for success for these children and
Absolutely.
getting them to read more. Do you think there's anything that we need to be cautious of in terms of using technology for learning?
Yeah, definitely. And I know there's a huge discussion at the moment. Lots of parents, myself included, are shying away from screen time and mobile devices. But I do think that it has a place in education. I think that we have to be really strong in the fact that, an example is Timetable Rockstars. It's so niche and it does exactly what you want it to do. It's probably no shock that people talk about it on your podcast too, but it has such a place that cannot be replicated by any other form of input. That rote learning is how children get their timetables. There's no argument that is exactly how children need to learn. And I think that with the screen time debate, it's easy to just whitewash and say no screen time at all. But for these children that are reluctant readers, they are having screen time and they are digesting digital content. So if it's a case of they can watch YouTube shorts for 20 minutes or they could read an online book, that is the better of the two. As I said earlier, to reiterate, we do want all children to get to the end point of reading for pleasure and reading those wonderful classic books. But to get to that point, we have to accept that there are going to be little steps in between, and that's where StoryZoo comes in. And
I think
the
sorry,
accessibility
carry
as
on.
well. Sorry, no, God, I'm really on my soapbox tonight. Children with SEND needs, and those they can maybe afford, the schools can afford one set of books that is accessible to them. StoryZoo then opens up hundreds of books, literally at the click of a button. You can make the whole library accessible. That's invaluable to children. It really helps, I think, as well. I've had a lot of children that haven't had access to books at home, which is, from where we're sitting, is absolutely mind-blowing. But if you're sat at home and you only get one book every week and it gets taken away at half term and Christmas and you don't have another book for 2 weeks, StoryZoo is there then to supplement the library and keep their little imaginations going.
I mean, that's the reality, isn't it? That's the sad reality. There are some children who don't have books in their houses,
A lot.
and this is their
Yeah.
only access to book is through school. So if we can eliminate that by using StoryZoo or a platform like StoryZoo to open up hundreds of books to these children,
Yes.
I just think I think that's amazing. I know that we've got the new reforms for the national curriculum were out today, including a new Year 8 reading test and fitting in lots of things that you maybe don't have time for in Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 as well. It comes back to that idea of testing. At Key Stage 3, we're supposed to be building their love of reading so that in Key Stage 4, we can at least try and get them to read Macbeth and A Christmas Carol. But if we take that love of reading away for the sake of another test, I wonder what the impact of that will be.
I'm very concerned about the fact that we seem to be sticking plasters over problems instead of trying to get it right in the first place. And I think that we've done that a lot previously, and we've diverted attention to later down the road, when if in fact we get it right in the first place, there's no need for them to have that. And I do wonder the outcome of that result in Year 8. If you do have a child that scores below the national average, what support is then put in place to ensure that that child meets their age-related expectations. It feels a bit late in the journey to then decide that that's a turning point. And like we said earlier, the negative connotations that child has had from 4 years old to 14 years old is 10 years of negative experience. That's not going to turn around before their GCSEs. That's we've almost, well, we have done that child a disservice because we've let them get too far out the gate before we've identified the problem. So when I eventually run for education secretary, that will be something that will be something that I address. I think we need to lock down and get that right straight away as soon as children are coming in, before they've even had a chance to build that negative relationship.
I'll vote for you, Sophie.
Thank you very much.
Not my vote. It's so interesting what you said about sticking plasters. I read on LinkedIn earlier, somebody had posted something about it, and it was like, what are we doing about the 9% of pupils who drop out before their GCSEs?
Yeah.
What are we doing about the 31% of pupils who are only going to get a grade 1? There's no solution here.
And the link between permanent exclusions and literacy ability attainment is such a direct link that's been spoken about time and time again, but we're still not addressing that. So I saw that that they were saying that there wasn't allowed to be that many exclusions, and we were looking at that. But if we get the literacy rates right, then that will have a knock-on effect. That has a knock-on effect on like prison and going to prison and having that crime rate. That has a direct impact on children's literacy ability. So yeah, it's crazy to me that we don't get the source of the problem right, and we're allowing it to sort of fester and build within the children, because that has a huge impact on their social mobility and their opportunities and their jobs ultimately.
And don't get me wrong, I think the citizenship in primary school is important. I think it's important they learn about money and mortgages and
financial,
taxes. Yeah. And I think that's so important, but they're not going to get to a point where they have a mortgage if they cannot read.
Absolutely.
And that's the crux.
And I think about even using the terms mortgage and financial literacy and all of those other things. How can you comprehend what that means and understand what that is without having a basic level of literacy understanding? We all know in schools that we have taught that. We have taught, maybe haven't taught them what a mortgage is, but we have taught them about money, and we have that threads through our PSHE curriculum, our maths curriculum. It hasn't come from nowhere. We do already teach some of it, but I wonder how that will be presented from a curriculum point of view when children aren't able to access the national curriculum that we have at the moment because of their literacy attainment. It's interesting. We'll watch this space. I'd love to be proven wrong.
Me too. I'd love for this to be the plaster that fixes everything. But I just the idea that getting it right in primary school is so important. The reading age of the maths paper is 16 years old.
That's crazy.
They're being set up to fail. They can't access the papers. They won't pass the papers. They'll fail the papers. That's another percentage that goes towards that grade 1 from the 31 earlier. It really makes me sad that reading for pleasure isn't being encouraged in the way that it should be encouraged. And that's why I think StoryZoo is so brilliant. And I think you've really got an excellent little idea there.
Thank you. And we do have the year of reading coming up. So I think they have looked at it and realised that through like the National Literacy Trust studies, you can see where the data is. But again, it seems to be another sticking plaster. We'll shout about reading for pleasure, but what does that actually mean from like a pedagogical approach? How do we ingrain that into our schools to make sure that every teacher that's coming out of teacher training really understands how to embed that love of reading? It starts by reading in your classroom. Having a book open when they're coming in from lunch does wonders. It doesn't matter what book.
No, I mean, I'd love that. Can we put that in secondary schools?
Absolutely, yeah.
Are there any things in the pipeline for StoryZoo in Key Stage 4?
Yes. There are, yeah. So we're working with, at the moment, some of our pilot schools all around the country to develop a transition program from Key Stage 2 to Key Stage 3. That will hopefully extend all the way through. So we have a lot of schools, specialist provisions that use StoryZoo all the way to Year 11 at the moment. But we're enhancing our library. We are also developing vocab linked to the GPS, for the lovely GPS. Objectives as well, but that will come from because we've used the GPS to prompt our stories and to write our stories. They are embedded in our stories, so it becomes a lovely way of testing GPS, but in a real book situation that the children have read. So that's coming soon too. And we also have MathZoo, which is on the horizon as well. So MathZoo is a fluency program which will be used in schools, and it has a homework app as well. And we're currently in beta testing phase for that. So we're just opening that up to our first set of schools to get some lovely feedback back. So there is lots of hope on the horizon. And lots of working with teachers that are in the classroom that know exactly what they need in order to really develop some tech that fills those gaps for both teachers and children.
And I think that's absolutely key, isn't it? Using teachers who are still teaching, who are in the classroom day in, day out, because that's not happening enough with our infrastructure. And
Absolutely.
I just think, obviously, that's the right decision to do
Yeah.
that and to pilot that. So how do you see digital storytelling? How do you see that evolving over the next few years? And how do you see StoryZoo impacting that?
So digital storytelling, I see. I've had experience today actually of children that want to be able to influence their stories, and I think back to when I was at school, and I think I had books where you could choose to go down path A or path B, and there was a way of building up the story that was unique to you. And I think that's going to play a part in the way that we develop our stories, to give children real ownership of where the storytelling goes. And I think that's quite a nice way to link into writing as well, which is obviously a huge focus. As is everything. You're juggling all the time, all the different subjects, aren't you? So I think that's going to help us as well. But I think really rich quality stories with all of the tools that the children need to develop their imagination, because we've had such a tricky few years, which I won't mention why, we all know why, with different things where children were learning from home. I think that their experiences have been really limited. And I think that the current situation of the country at the moment means that there's maybe not as much money for children to experience things as they can. So I think really visual stories from all different walks of life are going to have a massive impact on making sure that we arm children with as much information to become as empathetic and understanding about different cultures and different people as we possibly can. So I think that's where that side is going. And for StoryZoo, we're going to continue to develop. We get all of our feedback from our schools that use StoryZoo, so they have a direct play into what we're developing next. And so we're going to keep listening to teachers and keep filling the holes and making sure that we've all got the tools to make children's life just that little bit better.
It's so important. And if you could wave a magic wand and you could fix one thing about how reading is currently being taught, or the idea of reading across the country, what would you change? You've got one wish.
Oh, that's really tricky. I've got
You
a
can have a
list
few
as long
wishes.
as I've got a massive list. Right at the top of my list is to take away all that negative energy around reading and the prescriptive nature in which it's taught, and just get children reading and listening and answering questions about books, and really cultivate a love of reading from the classroom out. And I've been in schools where they're doing a fantastic job of that, where children are engaged in reading and they're accessing texts that maybe are not fully decodable, but they are able to access and listen and build that picture up. And that's exactly where my love of reading came from, being able to transport myself somewhere else on a rainy Wednesday night. So that would be top of my list, to just take all that negative energy and prescriptive nature of teaching reading just make it all disappear.
I think absolutely the same. We spoke about the areas of disadvantage earlier being the ones that are the most affected by the lack of reading for
Mm,
pleasure. And growing up in an area of deprivation, that's exactly why I fell in love with reading. We didn't have phones or TikTok or Instagram or anything. The book was how I transported myself out of those situations.
yeah.
And I think that StoryZoo will give the children that power again to be
Yeah,
able
I
to
really
do that.
hope so.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
and also the representation to be able to show children that they can be and they can do anything. And I think that's what I've seen in generations of people that haven't had that reading for pleasure, that their expectations of themselves become quite limiting, and I want to free children of that and have that social mobility and allow children to dream really big, and no matter where they're from, be able to think, no, I can do that.
we so drama where the leaders of oracy in our school, obviously that makes sense.
Yes,
Um
yeah.
and and it's really that idea of giving our children a seat at the table and then being able to articulate themselves gives them that seat, that opportunity to be in front of people they wouldn't have been before, have opportunities they wouldn't before.
Absolutely.
And I think that
Yeah.
reading is exactly the same.
It is. And even in my career journey to where I am now, if I hadn't had those skills, I don't think that I would have found myself in boardrooms with people and had those skills and those transferable skills. And I think to interviews and anything that I've done since I started teaching to now, which is feels like a long time, it's those it's those that emotional intelligence and that ability to be able to articulate myself, and all of that comes from the vocabulary that I've learned from reading books. So yeah, as you said, a huge impact on children's outcomes, and if we get it right, then they can fly.
I absolutely can. I'm going to give you a question for your closing words. Are you ready?
Love, I am, yeah.
Okay, the question is, what advice would you give to other educators or entrepreneurs who've got a big idea but aren't sure where to start?
I would say talk to people. Talk to as many different people as possible. I've had so many conversations with people that may not have come to anything, but have shifted my perspective and have introduced me to other people. And don't give up. We can make a difference as well. I think that I could have stayed in my classroom and I could have happily had a lovely career, but I knew that I could impact more children if I pursued this idea. And I think that teachers feel that real duty in their jobs, and we're all doing an amazing job, and it has that feeling of I was born to do this and I'm supposed to do this, but you can do it alongside other things. And I think that's what we're showing people, yourself included, that we can teach and we can make a difference, and we can do something on a bigger scale as well, and that has a direct impact on the children. So yeah, talk as much as you can.
Where can people find StoryZoo? Where can they sign up? How can they get in contact?
So we have StoryZoo.org, which is our website, which has got loads of information and a lovely video of me delivering StoryZoo in my school, which is great. Or you can contact me at sophie@StoryZoo.org, and then I can get in contact with you. I love to hear from everyone. So even if it's just for a chat, I'd love to hear from you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Sophie.
Thank
It's been a great
you. No,
chat.
thank you for having me.
Thank you.